And update on the continuous voter registration. INEC is set to be deploying 5,346 personnel to 2,346 centers nationwide. And this is just a reminder for you to prepare to register for your voter's card. Remember it's resuming on the 28th of June. That's next Monday. Continuous voter registration, All right, it's 4 minutes past 8 a.m. Let's get straight to it this morning. A bill seeking to amend the Nigeria Press Council Act, as well as the National Broadcasting Commission Act, is presently before the National Assembly. Consequently, a public hearing was organized last week by the House Committee on Information, Ethics and Values, involving stakeholders, including those for and against the bill.
The House Committee on Information, Culture, Ethics and Values, ably led by the Chairman, Honorable Olusegun Odebumi, consideration in the House of Representatives. Block the legislative process as they allow the elected representatives of the people to collaborate with the public in a joint effort at the making. Each of the bills, if these bills become law, guarantee free speech. And
who made his own submissions requesting that certain sections should be added to the bill to grant the federal government license over all social media operations, as well as powers over internet broadcasting and all online media, had this to say.
I do want to add here, Mr. Chairman, sir, members of the House, specifically that internet broadcasting and all online media should be included with this, because we have responsibility to monitor content.
Mr. Mohammed, who has never hidden his views on this subject, is on record as having said this shortly after the NSAS protest of last year. We need a social media policy that will regulate what should be said and posted and what should not.
The federal government of Nigeria, from all indications, appears to be borderline obsessed with curbing democratic expression, largely by way of social media. Let's examine the evidence. The cybercrime law was passed during the administration of former President Goodluck Jonathan in May 2015, combating crime, cybercrimes, that is. This did not stop the introduction, however, of the frivolous petitions prohibition bill, which emerged months after the passage of the cybercrime law in the same year. It generated controversy due to its repressive content, and the bill was withdrawn in May 2016 following civil...
of Nigerians on social media could set the country on fire. The then Minister of Communications, Abeokuta, declared that sanctions would be imposed on those that undermine the country's interest and global security on the cyberspace.
Sounds familiar? Sounds familiar? The following year, the Anti-Social Media Bill, officially Protection from Internet Falsehoods and Manipulations Bill 2019, was introduced by Senator Mohammed Sani Musa to the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on the 5th of November 2019 to criminalize the use of social media in peddling false or malicious information. It met with the same slew of criticism that its predecessors faced, that there was existing legislation dealing with the aforementioned, that it was draconian and oppressive, stifling freedom of expression in a digital age.
Last year, in the wake of NSAS, key government actors, from the Minister of Information to a raft of state governors, have made recent high-profile calls for the regulation of social media in the wake of this protest. The recurring rationale for these calls revolve around to stop the spread of fake news, reports that the government says may destabilize the country, or in the words of Lai Mohammed, threatening the corporate existence of Nigeria.
On June 4, almost exactly 3 years to the day government first announced the introduction of the social media bill, or anti-social media bill, however you call it, Mr. Mohammed announced the ban of Twitter a few days after the microblogging site removed a tweet by the president for breaching its rules. The government also announced that all social media must register with the government to operate in Nigeria. Last week, the National Broadcasting Commission, in a newspaper editorial, asked all social media platforms and online broadcasting service providers in Nigeria to apply for the broadcast license. A directive, has greatly impacted everyone, even us.
Now, the resurgence of past restrictive views. We have talked about independence of the judiciary. Now let's talk about the independence of the media. Is freedom of speech, expression and press under threat? Is Nigeria tilting towards autocracy under President Buhari's regime? This is our poll today. Let us discuss.
Of course, you know that on Tuesdays we used to have a Twitter poll, but for reasons we do not have that. But we still endeavor to do the poll via the telephone lines and our Facebook pages and WhatsApp pages as well. So make sure when you call us or when you drop a comment, you answer the question whether Nigeria is tilting towards autocracy under the president's watch and whether freedom of speech, press, and expression is under threat. Now, joining us this morning, we have a special guest, Eddie Aino. He joins us not just as a veteran, but I know that you had served with the NBC in some capacity. So you'll be sharing with us from that wealth of knowledge on what this bill to amend the NBC and NBC Act means for democracy in Nigeria. We'll also have joining us this morning as well, Dr. Akingbolu, who is an executive director of the Institute of Media or Institute for Media and Society. Now, he was present at the public hearing of the bill, and I came across a video where he made some very interesting submissions, and I was able to get in touch with him, and he joins us now via the telephone lines. Good morning, Dr. Akingbolu.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you. Good morning. You're on to Splash FM.
Hello, can you hear us, Doctor?
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you loud and clear. Oh my.
Hello, Dr. Akingbolu. Can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Thank you very much for joining us. And sections that are considered to be a threat to our democracy, such as Section 23, in which you made some references to powers that would be given to the minister to interfere with the regulatory body. Have shed some light on those sections of the bill which are contentious.
Okay. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I hope you're hearing me.
Yes, loud and clear.
Oh, thank you very much. Talking specifically about this section that you're particularly focusing on. There are there is the law that will provide the legal ground, for them to use freedom of expression and freedom of speech. You don't like your father, so you say no. These are the major ones. There are others that are similar to things like section 2, which talks about the power of the community. But then, all the power to take away one of the most important powers of regulation, and that is the power to utilize it. Legislature does not have power, that is the NDC does not have the power to utilize it. What it does is just take application form. Applicants who want to set up broadcast will have to make application to process it, and his job ends there, because at that point he has to send the application to the office of the community and then to the office of the president, where approval has been. Worldwide, the practice international standard is that the regulator will have full regulative power, including the power to approve licenses. If you don't want to share this with any other organization, they're talking about the issue of giving directions to the community. It is settled in international law. They interfere. They do not allow independent broadcasting and regulation. So we are saying this cannot happen. We are saying, for example, that the section 2, which describes the powers of the FCC, to be amended to give the NDC the power not just to process the license application, but also to approve and issue license for certificate, giving direction to the community by the minister or approving the regulation put in place or to meet criteria. The position got rejected because the commission took the entry room of policy. So to concentrate on that and work on the security of government and then communicate with the regulator. This is the policy of government and NCA. Then when it comes to international regulations and issue of broadcasting, when all the international instruments are being placed and all of that, that has to go to play on behalf of the government and the government.
Right. Right. Now, Doctor. All right. Now, Dr. Akingbolu, as you've said, there are so many sections of the bill that are, causing eyebrows to be raised, but we can't get into all of that. However, I want to ask if you trust that the National Assembly will register your objections and do what is in the interest of the general populace regarding this bill, the outcome of this bill.
Well, at this point, our attitude to this issue that you have raised is that we should give the National Assembly the benefit of the doubt. That is, that we should believe that they will do the needful. As I said, at the last hearing, at the public hearing, Nigeria international obligation of participation instruments, one of which I mentioned earlier on. And this presenting an opportunity to refuse international obligations under the international agreement.
All right. Thank you very much, Doctor. We'd like to sincerely appreciate you so that you can also catch your flight as well. Thank you very much for speaking with us this morning.
That was Dr. Akin Akingolu. He's the Executive Director of the Institute for Media and Society. And as I mentioned earlier, he was at the public hearing of the bill which is generating all this talk. We'll definitely be checking in with him as issues develop regarding this bill. But
let's get to Eddie Aino now, who is here with us. We've introduced him earlier. Dawood will also join us for this conversation as well. But Eddie, you had some of the contentious aspects which Doctor raised there. What are your own thoughts as well?
Well, let me say first and foremost, that I'm wearing two caps. Having retired from the National Broadcasting Commission, and I'm a journalist because two issues are here. The Nigerian Press Council issue is also there, and I had the opportunity as chairman of the State Council of the NUJ to work against the media bill at that point in time, which was floated under IBB and late Minister of Information at that point in time, just he died a few months ago. Now, so having said that, yes, I started participating, and I participated up to the 5th Amendment. It was a stakeholders conference. You had lawyers, you had broadcasters, you had heads of missions, you had head of organizations, media organizations, newspapers, broadcasts, lawyers, even commercial people. Every stakeholder was interested. In fact, we invited people from abroad. The Kenyan man, used to be the man that had this documentary, the Africa, the Triple Heritage. He was there. So many professors were brought from abroad, to come and participate. So we gave it a very close, good thing, something that anywhere in the world, you can present. But we shouldn't forget the fact that the case of Nigeria was different. The conference, that they had in Badagry, national communication policy. So it took a lot of effort, to even convince the military administration of Rwanda, for instance, that people don't broadcast just anyhow. Because I recall some people came to the country and said they left New York yesterday, and by the time they got to Lagos, they thought they were in New York. Because in terms of music, in terms of obscenity, in terms of just mentioning infractions on broadcasting, and they said, what is happening? So that's the reason why NBC was created, to checkmate all these infractions that you might think. You want to protect the child, you want to protect women, you want to ensure that tradomedics, somebody who will say, with this just one drug, I can cure 100 things. So religious broadcast, you cannot give license to religious bodies, unlike United States of America, where you had licenses were given to religious organizations. That was it. But the difference now is that this new implementation committee was put together by the minister without the stakeholders, and that was, even those of us that retired from the commission at that point in time were against it, because the last one we had in Kano, we had in Abuja, everywhere, different news and current affairs programs and all that. So that was a deviation, but the minister used that section 6 that he mentioned. But even at that point in time, even if we wanted to review it, to bring in internet and what have you, we could still have waited for another review of the code, and that is just what the minister did. But on the positive side of it, he didn't mention some others, like local content. The minister talked about local content. The minister spoke about even allowing the broadcast houses to make more money. And when you talk of local content, it went up to the extent of even saying, in terms of conceptualization, in terms of programming standard, Nigerians should be the director, Nigerians should be the author, which happens in some other countries too, like India. I mean, when you go to a country, you want the content of that country. I mean, that was a good thing they did. But the ones that have attracted condemnation, even from the American president, Joe Biden, and so many others, United Nations and all that, is this aspect of gagging the press, because there's so many evidences, of gagging the press or the media in that law, in that restriction that we are talking about. For instance, even in terms of fine, hitherto fine should be 250,000 naira, the latest. But now it has graduated to between 5 million, to between 500,000 and 5 million. And in that law, in this new law, they are going to include it in the code. And so it didn't get the stakeholders, agreement, because you are talking of stakeholders, people who would agree with the Nigerian Broadcasting Code, not the National Broadcasting Code. That's one of the differences there. Then it's talking about exclusivity. Exclusivity has to do with international, intellectual property. You have a program, and you can sell it. You can do whatever you want to do with it. But the law, this new law, is saying when you have your exclusive program, willy-nilly, you have to share it among the Copyright Act. Because the Copyright Act gives the owner of the property the right to share it, the right to sell it, the right to license it to anybody. That's one of the areas.
Now, Eddie, sorry to cut you off there. We have on the line, I want to engage Daoud, who's also joining us here. Daoud is a reporter with the Punch newspaper. But we have on the line the Executive Director of the International Press Center, Mr. Larry Arugudadi as well. He joins us briefly. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. Now, you as well made your objections known to the bill to amend the NBC and NPC Act. Could you tell us what you think is wrong with that bill, which many say is, or which some say, which its proponents, the proponents of the bill say that the bill is, updating the media standards in the 21st century. I mean, it's 2021. The digital space is constantly changing and expanding, and it does need, some updates. So what are your objections to the bill?
Okay, as an elected institution,
right.
Actually, second is the fact that the two bills more or less try to make the Nigerian media extensions or departments of the Office of the Minister of Information. The Nigerian Press Council Act Amendment Bill, for example, is proposing that the Code of Ethics of the media.
All right, we're going to reconnect with Mr. Larry Arugudadi.
Yeah, I was making the point that the bill will more or less make the media extensions of the Office of the Minister of Information, because there's a provision there that says the Code of Ethics or the Press Code that is done by the approval of the minister. This is clearly not acceptable. In the case of the NBC Act, Section 2N, I think, of the function, says that the NBC could shut down a radio station and impose a hefty fine if it believes that it's in the public interest to do so, where there are alleged violations of the broadcasting code. Now, this is also another danger pose, because we are talking of the public interest. Who determines public interest? In any case, if anybody will determine public interest, shouldn't be an unelected body like National Broadcasting Commission with the Nigerian Press Council, and that the Nigerian Press Council, where it shows that there are violations of the law, can revoke the license of the newspaper. This in itself negates Section 39 of the Constitution, because Section 39 of the Constitution gives the right to own news media to Nigerians. So for us, like you are acting against the Constitution, and then you are talking of revocation of license. In the both instances, where we reminded the House of Representatives that there is a subsisting ruling by the Court of Appeal, to the extent that it will put up its own defense.
Okay.
So these are some of the provisions that we are objecting to. There are many, really. And the truth of the matter is that what the National Assembly should be doing, really, is to encourage the amendment of the Constitution in such a way that it protects press freedom when we appeared before the House of Representatives Committee on Information, we reminded them and we asked them to emulate the tactics in Ghana. In Ghana, there's a whole chapter of the Constitution, chapter 12 of the Ghanaian Constitution, that best practices. We're not even talking of Europe or America. We're even talking of Africa here, where the Constitution makes express provision for press freedom. And we also need to make the point for the benefit of our listeners to say that we are not saying that the media should not be regulated. But what we're saying is that that process must not be such that we begin to intimidate the media.
Right.
The media lives in a state of...
Okay, let's swing back to Dawood, who joins us now. Dawood, you heard what Larry said regarding how this will affect, even the press, newspapers. What do you make of his...
Opposed to the media view. See, I try to check to know that maybe I'll have a country. I was traveling yesterday I was traveling to Abeokuta from somewhere, and then I had to take a commercial car. You can't believe the music the guy was playing. No, that one will escape censor board anyway, because he's not a popular musician. All those young guys, raw messages, raw liberty to listen to whatever. But you are carrying public people, so you have to know that I am not feeling comfortable with this. I can sit down in my home if I want to do that, but you see, I'm saying that there is need for regulation, sincerely.
Right.
But the way the federal government is going about it is very, very wrong. It means that has ulterior motive. He wants to get at us. He's afraid of the masses. And of that, to deal with the former administration. So they are like Yoruba people say that they are the ones use this social media to get their whatever they wanted, and then
find some sections of the Criminal Code Act, sections 59, subsections 1 and 2, sections 418 of the Penal Code actually can be used to try libelous and defamatory offenses. Not to mention, we also have the cybercrime law, which we mentioned early on, which was passed by the Goodluck Jonathan administration, specifically to deal with, safe internet usage. So, if regulation already exists, why are we trying to carve out a separate one? I'll throw this one to Eddie now. Why are we trying to carve out a separate, stiffer sanction for social media usage? Social media.
Well, some of those laws, had existed before. You're talking of, libel, sedition, and all that. Official Secretary Act 1962, and all. But all those ones, you can put them aside, because we are talking of technology. We are talking of internet that is very fast. The speed is there, and it's very interactive. You can reach on your phone. You can reach billions of people with either false or good information, and that's the worry. But this government has never hidden its disdain, for the press or for press freedom.
After it got into power.
Yes, after it got into power. In fact, the 8th Assembly under Saraki started it, but Nigerians cried out, wanted to stifle. Press freedom is fundamental human rights. It's shrunk, it's shrinking already. So, what the government, I think, is this APC government all along. From the word go, they've never hidden, their attempt, to suppress it, and that's the reason why all these laws, are being made. And these laws are in a very, so many ways draconian. Even if you look at the NBC Act, in a way, because
as it stands?
Yes, the law, the NBC law. You see, people tend to mistake one thing. There are classes of offenses, in NBC. Grade A offense, for instance, if you refuse to pay your license fee, insolvency, bankruptcy, and all that, your license will be taken away from you because it means you cannot run it. You don't pay your staff and what have you. It's there all along. But what they are now saying is they are graduating even common offense, to grade A. And he's saying, like Mohammed is saying, we can take you down, we can shut your station, you can revoke your license. Yes, he spoke about the Lanre, spoke about grant of license. It has been there all along. In fact, people were opposed to it initially. That it's only the president that can give license. Yes, maybe because of the experience of Rwanda and what have you. But in other, smaller countries, go to Joy Radio in Uganda.
Right.
Under 3 weeks, you get your license. Once you have the money, you have the experience, you have the technical know-how, you will be granted the license. But here in Nigeria, it's the other way around. In fact, some applications will travel 3-4 years, and they will not even come out eventually. That's what Larry is saying, and it's a way to checkmate that freedom, to own radio, TV, and impart ideas, just like Larry mentioned.
But many have, complained about how this government seems to be so much, or certain elements of this government somehow want to, stifle.
And that's the reason why even the First Amendment in the U.S., Congress shall do nothing. And our own Congress, the corollary of Congress in America now, is trying to do so many things to stop it. Whereas First Amendment in America says Congress shall do nothing to hamper freedom. The trajectory of the president, which Lai Mohammed is trying to bring out now. When he came in 1984, he said, I will tamper with the press. And he did tamper with it. There's this Decree 4, which got Tunde Thompson and Nduka Elabo into jail. And what did they do? They announced the appointment of ambassadors, and they said, where did you get it? We have not announced it on our own, and it got them to jail. So all along, he came in, and that is what we are seeing now. Because when people cannot, when the media, that is the newspapers, the radio and television stations, are hampered, are deliberately through the law, and the law is very powerful. Once you offend the law, it's only the cause that can save you. For instance, the Nigerian Press Council, it says there's going to be a national press code that will flow from the office of the Minister of Information, and that when you offend, you will be fined 250,000 naira, and the organization can be fined 10 million naira, and you can even go to jail for 3 years. So where do we get where is our democracy? Once these things pass through, and that's the reason why we have to appeal to our National Assembly members, because they are the representatives of the people, either at the House of Representatives or the Senate. But in the final analysis and all that, by the time he got out, there were accusations against him. He was in the court and he was saying, please, press, help me. They forget the fact that the press helps everybody. Right. Because when you can hear, when your opinion can be heard, when people can know, when the government can be made to know what people feel about this administration, things go well.
Okay, now Dawood, you mentioned that you did a check online and you found that there's no country in the world that's not
I said I couldn't find.
You couldn't.
I've not
There's no country in the world that doesn't
regulate
social media. And you're right, actually. A lot of countries, well, maybe I don't know if it's every country in the world, but there are a lot of countries, developed countries, first world countries, second world countries, third world countries that do regulate social media in some form. As a matter of fact, this is one of the arguments that Lai Mohammed used to back up this suggestion that we regulate social media. In a recent interview, you get the picture. Nigeria itself, in the most recent, that was last year, this year, it ranked 120 on the world of Nigeria, picking examples from countries that are known to not support press freedom.
I have two views. One, I have issue with that ranking.
The press freedom index?
Yes. 120, they are not justifiable. They are not close to the truth. But I still believe that we need to understand it. Now they said there is a fire. There is a kind of an inferno. One fuel tanker got burnt along Ogini.
Right.
I'm to cover it. Government is doing summit, economic summit, conference. I'm to go there. You don't understand. When PDP or APC is doing something, I'm a general reporter. It does not happen in US and others. You have to pick one. Are you covering politics? Are you covering business? And then for you to also practice, you need to obtain some things. In Nigeria, when you have flair for writing, the guy is there. There are so many people that did not study any mass communication related course. They are in journalism. They are in this. You don't understand. So, and then believe that, okay, I want to attack Gboyega. Sincerely. It's not that police will arrest you. The worst is this machine will delete that. But in some of these, there are top 10 most censored country, media censored country. Cuba, Singapore, China, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Vietnam, and many others. So Nigeria is not part of it. You don't understand. So we should be very careful that yes, there is an attempt to gag us, and we are resisting it. And I know, like Oga said, it's not going to work. You know, they had made that attempt in 2019. We had to shut it down. We also shoot this one down. But the question is, when we are saying it should not gag us, we should.
Right. Okay. Well, we have to go on a commercial break, Eddie Dowd, and I'm sorry because this conversation is interesting, and I'm sure there's still areas.
Yes. I think the problem is trying to criminalize journalists. Once you don't criminalize journalists, you bring in the stakeholders, to even form this regulation we are talking about, because regulation is all over. If you don't regulate the airways, right. So many things are regulated.
Ẹ̀yọ́ yẹ lálùbáríkà. Lábàámíwé àwọn bàbá yín. Àwọn ìyá yín mọ̀lẹ́bí àti gbogbo aládùúgbò. Pé kọ́ máa kọtí kún owó lẹ òkòkò wọn rárá o. Iléeṣẹ́ First January Agro Investment Limited. Lójoojúmọ́ ràn ń fìrò káràṣe máa tú dédé ònìyàn. Ẹ̀yin ọmọ yìí ǹjẹ́ ti gbọ́ náà.
Pé kí ni?
Iléeṣẹ́ First January yìí lè yàpọ̀. Alẹ́ bìdùnnú ṣọdún 32,000 ra sọlé oko dàbá yìí. Rọ́ọ̀tì kan. Èmi kò pè ká má rẹran ká ṣéun gbogbo líwọ̀ntúnwọ̀nsì torí ọjọ́ ọ̀la o. Ẹran léyà máa tán ilẹ̀ yẹ̀bára máa wà níbẹ̀. Ẹ̀yin rè ní. Ẹ tètè wà láyé plọ̀tì ìbáwùn yín a ò ní wáyé lásán o. Ẹ bá tún wá lálẹ́ ètò plọ́ọ̀tì mẹ́fà. Àtúndín lówó. Ọdún léyà yìí ń bọ̀ yìí kò ní í jáṣe mọ́ o. Iléeṣẹ́ First January Agro Investment Limited. Àwa Lansarudin House, Quarry Road, Pepsi Labẹ́òkúta. 081 65 64 65 35. Ẹ ò ní sọ̀wọ́ nù.
Attain the knowledge you require to join the broadcasting industry. Splash FM Media Academy offers premium training to both aspiring and practicing personalities. And enroll now at Splash FM Media Academy for a certificate of proficiency in broadcast journalism. Splash FM Media Academy courses include Introduction to Presentation, Basic Production, Digital Media, Yoruba Presentation, plus interactive practical mentorship session with veterans and industrial placement. To register, visit the Splash FM Media Academy beside White House, Felele, Ibadan. But you can also register online at splashfm1055.com/academy or call 0705-439-3332. Visit our social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Splash FM Academy for more details. Realize your potential and pursue a career in radio broadcasting today. Splash FM Media Academy, preserving media integrity.
Ǹjẹ́ ta ni òpè ta ni ọlọ́gbọ́n.
Akọ́lé màrà lẹ̀.
Ọlọ́gbọ́n lẹni tó ní ìpìlẹ̀ rere fọ́jọ́ ọ̀la rẹ̀ àti àwọn ọmọ rẹ̀ káyé wọn lè dùn kó lè dùn. Òpè lẹni náà tó gbìyànjú lórí kankan àbí kejì. Èyí ni iléeṣẹ́ àgbájọ Homes and Property Nigeria Limited fi ní kájí ọlọ́gbọ́n káwá ra àwọn ilẹ̀ ẹ̀dínwó aláìlábùlà high level city randa 250,000 ní tẹ́lẹ̀ báyìí 100,000 lẹ́sàn. Lucky View Estate Òṣèlè 150,000 ní tẹ́lẹ̀ báyìí 80,000 lẹ́sàn. Ilé oko ń bẹ ní orílẹ̀ lọ́nà Ìbàdàn àti ní Àpèsè village lọ́nà Ayétòrò 30,000 naira ní. Bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ti sanwó ẹ máa gba rìsíìtì bẹ́ẹ̀ lẹ́sìn láǹfààní sí dọ́kúmẹ̀ntì lẹ́yìn ìparí oṣù kẹfà láǹfààní yìí ó mọ̀. 39 NTA Road Ọgbẹ̀ Abeokuta 07044648338 07044648338.
Akọ́lé màrà lẹ̀.
Àǹfààní olóṣù kan rèé májì ó fún ẹ torí pé ìwọ gangan gbọ́dọ̀ nípa nípìn nínú ẹ̀.
Let's talk about sport. From the end-to-end stuff or sometimes ball-sparking and rigidity of a football game to the adrenaline-pumping and high-octane energy sport of Formula One.
Gerrard slipped and Denver Barr's in here. Barr punishes of all people Steven Gerrard. It's the worst possible scenario for Sebastian Vettel, who started on the second row and is now running right down at the bottom of the field.
How about the exchange of blows in boxing and mixed martial arts, two games of athletics, tennis,
From close range, forget about it.
golf, basketball, and more? Join the sports team for high-profile interviews, previews, and reviews on the Integrity Station, Splash 106.7 FM. For Sports Cafe every weekday by 11:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m.
Are you ready for some football?
Sports Cafe, all things sports, lives here.
ojoojúmọ́ ní iléeṣẹ́ IAS ń fakọyọ. bẹ́ẹ̀ ẹ̀yin oníbàárà wa gan ni àṣírí àṣeyọrí rere wa ní gbogbo ìgbà. ọlọ́run àwa ń dúpẹ́ o. àmọ̀rírì ìfẹ́ tó o ní sí wa. torí ìwọ gan ni onídùúró tiwa. ẹ̀yin olólùfẹ́ iléeṣẹ́ IAS. tẹ́ ẹ fẹ́ jẹ nínú àǹfààní ẹ̀dínwó tí ò láfiwé 50% discount. kí ènìyàn fowó ọ̀làjì púlọ̀tì. táwọn dídí púlọ̀tì kan ní iléeṣẹ́ IAS tó ń lọ lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́. ní ìsàmìsí ayé ọdún karùn-ún tí wọ́n dá iléeṣẹ́ IAS sílẹ̀. ẹ wá gbọ́ o. láti June 16 títí di ọjọ́ tó gbẹ̀yìn oṣù kẹfà yìí ilẹ̀ Treasure Garden Máwùkọ́ àti IAS Honey Drop Garden Máwùkọ́ tí ẹ ti ń rà ní 150,000 naira tẹ́lẹ̀ ẹ máa rà lẹ́dínwó 75,000 naira péré. lórí lantern lórí ìrókò IAS Garden City opposite Alamala Barracks round Abeokuta àti Value Love Garden City Ọbádẹ́òkú extension Náṣípa tí ẹ ti ń rà ní 750,000 naira tẹ́lẹ̀ ẹ máa rà báyìí ní 500,000 naira péré. láàpọ̀ bá pín. ètò ìkànsí iléeṣẹ́ IAS tó bá súnmọ́ jùlọ pé 08092944848 pẹ̀lú oṣù kẹfà yìí láǹfààní yìí máa dópin o.
Panorama.
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 Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM.
There must be a limit to politicking. There must be a limit to politicking. If a government have done well, if a president have done well, we should give him the areas of doing well. We give him accolades there. Areas that have not done well, point them out and discuss. This president is a Democrat, and this president is so afraid of a breach of the Constitution or any law. So afraid of it. I'm even stronger than him in terms of that. Even President Obasanjo, can he give people this latitude? He will not. I know him. My dad, my granddad Obasanjo, or my senior uncle, he will not grant people that. So this president is not a willing horse. And he will him to death.
Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige there speaking. It's time to open phone lines and let you in on the conversation. You've heard it all from multiple angles, enough to make an informed opinion of your own. You can also drop us comments on social media. The numbers to call are 0817-444-1067, 0817-555-1067, 0817-0704-400-1067, Facebook Splash FM 106.7, and WhatsApp 0817-555-1067. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Afolabi is my name. I'm calling from Abeokuta.
Afolabi, thank you for calling, but make it quick, please.
Yeah, I want to say that the government should be careful in guarding the media and then in limiting our. Although it is good to limit certain things, because freedom without limit amounts to chaos, amounts to problem. I think each and every one of us must have encountered some problems pertaining to non-limitation of the species. Now, if we want to do something, we should do it with the interest of the people and for the good of our country. It shouldn't come out of annoyance, because what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing is about annoyance. It was a result of what happened when Twitter deleted part of the president's speech. So that annoyance is now bringing out all this, which will not work for us. There's this Yoruba adage that made us to understand that when you throw stones to annoyance, you can't kill any bird.
Okay, well, we're going to have to let you go there. A few minutes of network issue, 0817-444-1067, 0704-400-1067, and 0817-555-1067. We've got some comments on WhatsApp.
On WhatsApp, Paula Joel said, I am not surprised by this recent bill to gag the media. Okay, let's get to the phone line before I take the rest of that message. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Tajudeen from Agboyega.
Yes, Tajudeen from Agboyega.
Good morning.
Thanks for the submission. In my opinion, there is a very huge gap between the people in authority and the masses. So the only way that the masses are able to know what is going on is through the media. So it is the media that is bridging this gap. So I see it as the government trying to establish that gap further by limiting the media. So I see it as I just want the people in power to restrict this force, to keep resisting this autocracy from the government. So, thank you.
Thank you, Tajuddin from Agbon, for keeping it short. You too, if you'd like to call us up on the number 0817-444-1067, and please keep your thoughts to 1 minute.
I'm not surprised by this recent bill to gag the media. Mr. Lai has always been acting as a de facto president with several fiats being made by him. This government, no doubt, is autocratic, not democratic. Just because Twitter deleted the president's tweets, the government placed a ban on it. Therefore, how does it make this government a democrat? Also, the centralization of information to the federal government is not democratic. May God help us in this country. Olajuwon from Itaoshi. Samson U. Joseph said, beautiful morning, my people. I am Samson U. Joseph. Here. Okay, let's take another call. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, this is
Nicholas. Good morning to you.
Yeah, everywhere in the world, there's an attempt to control the media. Even in the U.S., National Decency Broadcast Act, you have the Federal Commission. We are surrounded by hunger, poverty, ignorance. You talk about critical thinking. England and the Nordic countries have solved some issues in life. They are closer to heaven than Nigerian countries. For me, this is a wrong timing. It's just a review of the before that this same Buhari, as a young man, enacted in his military regime that sentenced people like Unduka Irabo and Tunde Thompson to jail for 8 months. It's the truth. But that's not over the fact that some of the media, in Nigeria, publish some false content that leads to some sensations and innuendos that might have some effect.
Thank you,
Nicholas. Samson U. Joseph, continue. The self-fear gripped me after listening to what this current government is planning in order to take away our freedom of speech. Okay, back to the phone lines. Good morning.
Good morning, Lola. Good morning, Gboyega.
Good morning.
Mariam calling from me.
Oh my, it's been a while, Mariam.
Yes, there's always traffic on the line. It's belated happy birthday to Gboyega.
Thank you,
I so much tried to put a call in yesterday.
Yes. Thank you, Mariam.
Okay, yes, to the issue of the day, I think there's this obsession about this present government and the press. That's the only restraint they're actually having. They're not having a CD press at all. The press is actually a way of exposing majority of things they try to do. But my concern now is that I hope you, the media practitioners, are not folding your hands and just letting this to go on, because they're in a better position to actually fight this to the end. I hope you actually do that and not let them be
That's why we're bringing it to you.
Okay. I do believe so. That's very good. So let's just fight it to the end and to the end of this, okay?
All right.
Thank you very much, Mariam.
Thank you very much, Mariam. Samson U. Joseph continued by saying, honestly, we are in for it. Who knows how much of such evil bills and laws have been passed without people's consent? I will not be surprised if these laws, NBC laws, are passed, because these our leaders are so wicked. The aim of this current government is to cage us totally after what they saw during NSAS protest. Let me stop here. It is another message here. Abeokuta. Thank you very much. We have a message on Facebook.
Yes, we do. Sanitarian Akinola Oluwarotimi says, good morning to the presenters. Good job, well done. I just want the government to readjust and think about this issue of media regulations. They're looking for all ways in shutting us up, and we're shouting freedom of speech. Where is the freedom of speech, for crying out loud? May God help us. All right. That's as much as we can take for our issue of the day.
Nicholas is typing, but of course we'll take the message when it drops.
Let's head to the newspapers then and bring you a daily roundup of the biggest stories from the Punch, which I have here with me.
I have the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, but Nicholas's message is dropped, so I'll just quickly take that. I expect the NUG and NBA to use their privilege vigorously by joining Serap in court. Thank you, Nicholas. On the front page of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, Nati, Nigeria made $400 billion from petroleum sector in 10 years. With Rider, court slams 82 billion naira damages against Mobile NNPC over oil spillage. Army kills 20 Boko Haram ISWAP terrorists in Benue forest. Well, in Benue, this is interesting. And we have another story. Customs to detain private aircrafts that lack verification papers. Fish farmers lament loss of over 100 million naira to Ijebu flooding. Twitter ban, reps begin probe today with the rider Lai Mohammed, NGO CSO to appear. Lai Mohammed is in the news a lot these days. I actually visited Jigawa yesterday to check out the tallest pole, I think, that has the Nigerian flag in Nigeria. And he was dragged on social media for that. But let me continue with some of the stories here on page 3. Court orders federal government to pay Bayelsa $951 million. Court stores release of 13-year-old who gave birth in prison. Many injured as APC factions clash in Kwara. UAE makes U-turn, suspend flights from Nigeria. FG approves 16 billion naira for takeoff of varsities in Akwa Ibom, Jigawa, Osun, and Bauchi. No section of Nigeria is excluded in my administration, Buhari insists. We find all of these headlines on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper.
Let me run through the Punch real quickly, as well as Premium Times and perhaps Vanguard. The big story from the Punch is on bandits' herdsmen farmer occupation. Insecurity grounds CBN borrowers. Farmers say loan repayment difficult. A farmer said, I was kidnapped for a month, my crop destroyed, I don't know how to pay the CBN loan. We can't support farmers with uninsured ABP loans, says Federal Ministry of Agriculture. Bello meets abducted students' parents, unveils anti-banditry battle plan. We also have here ex-DIG seeks to stop Oju Kalu's alleged 7.1 billion naira fraud retrial. Buhari fire me commend Abuad independent power plant. NSAS protesters still in prison with newborn. Bail application unheard. Protesters block Abuja Airport Road, demand Buhari's resignation over insecurity. Ex-convict robs, rapes octogenarian in Ondo, stolen phones recovered. Yoruba scholars, monarchs caution Igboho, demand decentralized government. On our issue of the day, we have a related story here on the media bill. Buhari reintroducing Decree 4 under different guise, says stakeholders. Federal government calls Emirates bluff. Airline bans Nigerian travelers again. Customs prepared to seize private jets over document verification. Court orders federal government to pay Bayelsa $951 million over derivation fund. From Premium Times, why Buhari APC failed in first 4 years. That's according to Senate President Lawan. Minister says Africa produces only 1% of vaccines administered on continent. And I already took the story earlier, but I will take it again. Continuous voter registration. INEC to deploy 5,346 personnel to 2,346 centers nationwide. Nigerian government establishes 4 new universities in Osun, Jigawa, and others. Let me peg it with Premium Times because of time.
There's also this story of interest that I can see on the online Punch newspaper, the online version. INEC introduces portal for voters e-registration.
Oh, that is interesting.
I mentioned this yesterday as
Should
well.
That be our first story?
Let's start with that particular story. The Independent National Electoral Commission, in its bid to resume the continuous voter education registration next week, has introduced an online portal for registration. And it said in the next 1 week, on Monday, just like Lola said earlier, the Commission will resume continuous voter registration. In doing so, the Commission is introducing a portal to enable eligible Nigerians to commence registrations as voters online before completing the exercise physically at designated centers nationwide. So what happens is you fill the form online, you print it out, and then you take it to the designated center.
Isn't that another logjam in the wheel of registration?
Well, let's speak to Kunde Ashimi, who joins us live for this segment of the program. Good morning to you. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, Lola.
So INEC is trying to introduce some bit of technology into this process. We were all around when the last process took place, and I can say that it was cumbersome. Sometimes you get to, the INEC local government office, a lot of people, you have to wait endlessly for hours. But do you think this, introduction could help, simplify the process?
Yes, I think that it will help. Let's take in the ramification of how well it will. It will help. It will help to shorten the time that you will spend in front of the registration officer because you would have filled all your forms online. I also hope that, the risk manager in me is saying, is there any catch in this? Is there any catch in this? Is there something some people will have built into this to, defraud the political system again? But I think that it might not be so. It might just be that now, if you had to spend like 10 minutes before the registration officer now you just have to spend 2 minutes. Possibly it's just to physically verify that this is you and then put your signature on something, or maybe all the forms you have filled, then it's before them and then they verify it physically and you put your signature and then you go.
But how do we make sure that...
The point is, the typical Nigerian in me, distrusting the political system is to say, is there something built into this to give favor to some other persons, later on during the elections? Well, let us just trust the INEC chairman that he means well. Ordinarily, this should have been the way that voter registration and all of those things should. Now that we have all those numbers, that tie us to a central system. As a matter of fact, I believe that with all this NIN and so, by the time any Nigerian clocks 18, you should, for example, get an automatic SMS alert to say, now you are due to, get your voters register, your voters card. All you may just need to do is supply your residence now, because where you live, when
where a pre-registration online works, that's in the application for the international passport.
Yes.
You fill, you submit, and then that online, you still get to the office. For instance, last year I was in Ibadan. Now I'm in Abeokuta. You never can tell, what will happen next year or 2 years from now or 2023 when election comes. So I do CVR now. I move my permanent voter card to Abeokuta. And then maybe by 2023, I'm no longer here in Abeokuta. So should we not be looking in the line of being able to vote wherever you are, irrespective of, where you have, registered?
Because in the transfer of your card from one state to another, first off, it disenfranchises some people. Some people automatically find it too troublesome to go through the same process all over again.
So that at any point in time, they may put a time to say, okay, you cannot change it in less than 2 years, okay? Otherwise, you have yourself voting in Lagos this year and then in Ogun next year and all that. But some people may have, but they would have to sit down to that. And then, they getting it right. The NIN thing, of course, for NIMC, of course, they had those issues. Apparently, they did not perfect it. But again, for the average Nigerian parastatal, when this idea comes, it might not be the people that brought the idea to them that they would want to give the job to. People who have already worked on it and perfected it. They bypass those ones, look for one of their friends and say, okay, see, somebody brought this idea. Go and set it up. And then it gets it all wrong. I have heard so many stories like that where it was when they now failed, they will now come back to the original owners of the ideas and all that. So I'm sure that along the line, lessons are learned, and then it will be easier. You know that even this, what's it called? This tinted permit and all that, you actually register for it online. You print it out and then you go to. So Nigeria is gradually in programs for that. And if they have done so, they should please test it in-house. You know, they should do a test run before they bring it to the public.
Well, next week Monday is here, so but just to let you know that there will be new registrants. That's at the last time it was done. If your access is for you,
Is there a way
which
to
is
check
which
if
is
your voter's
commendable.
card is still valid? Like,
I think there is a portal where you have
You'll
your
be able to do that.
I think there's a portal where you can do
the voter's card does not expire. It does not expire. What changes are your own demographics, like your location, your age, and all of those things. So.
all right. I do want to ask one last question before we take another story now. Now, as the world and Nigeria, in turn, embraces internet and new technologies, we must also reconcile that with the current reality, which is the fact that some people actually do not have access to the internet.
Yes.
And Nigeria does have a good, reach of the internet. About 50% of the population, as of this year, actually have are internet users. But an even lesser population, or let's just leave it at 50% of the population, have access to the internet. Now, the other 50% that do not have access to the internet, what happens to them? I say this also because yesterday, JAMP said that it had a revenue drop this year due to the addition of NIN as one of its prerequisites for registration. That accounted for a revenue drop. So obviously, there were some people who maybe found the process cumbersome or were unable to understand it or weren't aware. Whatever the case is, how do you see this affecting? Do you think this will disenfranchise a section of Nigeria? How do you think INEC can?
Okay. Now, let's just look at that JAMP thing. JAMP should also understand that the NIN introduces a firewall for some fraudsters. Do you know that actually some people actually collect up to 3 or 4 forms? You know?
For what purpose?
Okay, so the number of people that will register will be reduced. Even all these WAEC and GCA, some people you may use a combination of your name here, another combination there, and different. So when the result comes, you take the best.
Whichever is the best.
And that is the same that happens for them. It's something that's been happening from time immemorial. So it actually shows that it is so deeply entrenched and it's a wide thing. Now, the advent of GSM technology has actually helped the penetration of internet in Nigeria. And thanks to our Chinko phones that, carries the Android platform, it has also helped those who ordinarily would not have used. So internet usage in different forms, from social media and all of that uses, account for the generalized time of here. And these days, if you visited anywhere where they're developing products for the internet and all that, one of the things that you would see is that a lot of these things always come with a mobile version. So when you are designing an internet product and you are not coming up immediately with the internet version and with the mobile version, it becomes a problem for you because it would hardly be used. And so you may even have some platforms, some developers will tell you their preference for some of these platforms they use to design their website and all, because some will automatically, also give you the mobile version. If anything you're doing, and like INEC and all those people, when they are doing all these things and there's no mobile version, it will not make it successful. Because how many people would sit down in front of a laptop or a tabletop computer or a PC to start doing all these things? We do it on the go. In fact, I would want to say that, anecdotally anyway, that close to 90% of internet usage in Nigeria is via the mobile phone. And that is where we need to do, make it, the UI, the user interface should be very friendly for people who are not even so well educated to be able to use.
All right, now how insecurity is surrounding the Central Bank of Nigeria's Anchor Borrowers Program. It says here that farmers in Zamfara, Kebbi, Sokoto, Ekiti, and Ebonyi states in separate interviews with the newspaper on Monday said repaying the loans would be tough because bandits had taken over their farms and crops. Now, what I find interesting about this is that the CBN Anchor Borrowers Program too is another social welfare program that the government is inventing to sort of alleviate poverty to some extent. But here you have the participants who can't even fulfill their part of the agreement because of current, social and security situations in the country. Rather ironic.
Okay, now the thing about it is that let's situate central to all of this insecurity. Okay, and that's why I keep shouting that no matter what this government does, no matter how laudable all this project, for as long as this problem of insecurity is not tackled, nothing will show. Now, the Anchor Borrowers Fund is on one side. People have been farming before the Anchor Borrowers Fund came into being. Right. Then this insecurity comes in. A lot of people don't understand that the inflation in food prices in Nigeria is directly linked to insecurity, which has stopped a lot of people from going to the farm. Now, the vicious cycle is this. When these farmers don't get to go to farm and, they get hungry and all of that, they too can start participating in all of those vices that increases our level of insecurity. So insecurity breeds the farmers not being able to go to their farms, and then the farmers become so hungry that they too may end up becoming criminals, contributing to the level of insecurity. And then again, there is the issue of not being able to pay the CBN. Now, it means that all the monies that the CBN has pulled in would go down the drain if we're not careful. And then again, government will not find the reserve. These monies are supposed to come back and then be plowed back into...
We educate, that's why we are respected. We inform, that's why we are loved. More music, we are the best. The Integrity Station, Splash
106.7. Attain the knowledge you require to join the broadcasting industry. Splash FM Media Academy offers premium training to both aspiring and practicing personalities. And enroll now at Splash FM Media Academy for a certificate of proficiency in broadcast journalism. Splash FM Media Academy courses include Instagram at Splash FM Academy for more details. Realize your potential and pursue a career in radio broadcasting today. Splash FM Media Academy, preserving media integrity.
Èmi ò ní ṣe bí bàbá olówó lẹ́yìn kìràkìtà tààrọ̀ ó tún délé kò sí ná bàbá tán jẹnẹrétọ̀ ìyẹn ń ṣe gbogbo gbagba o ìgbà tó máa dágó méjìlá òru onílé ọ̀tún onílé òsì wọ́n wá ń pariwo bàbá olówó ẹ̀ sì jẹ́ ká sùn ṣé nìkan lè máa kọ́kọ́ lówó ṣé ẹ̀rí polówó fowó ráyọnu fowó ráyọnu. Mr. Simple, èmi ti rí solution ju 6 energies ni.
Iná ìjọba lọ kò lọ, jẹnẹrétọ̀ wà kò sí kò kàn yín pínpín. Tẹ́ ẹ bá ti wá bá wa sọ àsọyépọ̀ ní June 6 Energies Nigeria Limited. Tá a sì bá yín ṣe alternative solar inverter power supply tó ń lo agbára oòrùn. Kẹ́ ẹ wá máa lo iná lọ yàlà yòlò. June 6 Energies Nigeria Limited and Sarudin House, Quarry Road, Pepsi, Abeokuta. Telephone 0812-926-7722.
ẹ gbọ́ bí wọ́n ṣe ń pè é Atilayo Estate and Homes Limited bẹ́ẹ̀ gan la yóò bá gbogbo wa bó ṣe kù díẹ̀ kọ́dún lé yóò wọlé iléyà promo rèé Atilayo Mega City Awowo extension ẹgbẹ́ títì ló wà 500,000 ní tẹ́lẹ̀ báyìí 400,000 lẹ́sàn tẹ́sí láǹfààní sí blọ́ọ̀kù 250 pieces Platinum View Estate Randa lọ́lọ́ báyìí fọwọ́ tá àmúrò ọdún tẹ́ bá ti san 120,000 naira ẹgbẹ̀rún àpò ńlá kan pẹ̀lú plọ̀tì ilẹ̀ kan fọwọ́ tá nílò ẹran àgbò 90,000 naira lásán Atilayo Golden Estate phase 2 onígangan 120,000 náà lòun náà pẹ̀lú àpò ìrẹsì kan àti òróró 5 litre ẹ̀wà tá a bá nílò ẹ̀ 90,000 náà lásán Atilayo Glorious Point Estate Randa 120,000 náà ní pẹ̀lú ẹran àgbò ńlá kan fọwọ́ tá a nílò ẹran àgbò 90,000 lásán ọjọ́ kejìdínlógún oṣù keje làǹfààní yóò pín. nọ́mbà 30 ilé ẹja lónìbù bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ti kọjá láfẹ̀wá díẹ̀ lọ́nà sọ lọ sí Biuri 08034353207 08034353207 àǹfààní tó pọ̀ òjò wẹ́ẹ̀ lọ rèé ìwọ gan-an láláyọ̀.
ẹ tẹ́tí sí ìkéde pàtàkì yìí jọ̀wọ́ fojú inú ìyàwòrán bí o ṣe fẹ́ kí ọdún kérésìmesì àti ọdún tuntun ìyẹn New Year ó dùn kú lárinrin tó. ìwọ náà tètè tààrà ṣàṣà wá darapọ̀ mú àwọn ọlọ́gbọ́n ènìyàn tí wọ́n mú ilé iṣẹ́ ABL Merchandise Nigeria Limited bí òpó tí ó ṣe é fẹ̀yìntì fún gbogbo ẹni tó fẹ́ ṣọdún lọ́nà tí ó dùn tí ó lárinrin. ìwọ sáà ti rí dájú pé òun pẹ̀lú fi ó kéré tán 2,500 naira tàbí 10,000 naira pamọ́ lóṣooṣù fún ìmúrasílẹ̀ ọdún. gbàrà tí ọdún bá ti kù ọ̀sẹ̀ kan ó ti ní àǹfààní láti wá gbé àwọn ohun gbogbo tí ẹ fẹ́ fi ṣọdún bíi rice òróró màálù ògúnfe adìẹ bí ó bá sì jẹ́ àwọn ohun èlò inú ilé bíi tẹlifíṣàn generator home theatre fridge freezer àti bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ. ABL Merchandise Nigeria Limited wà ní 47 Purple Building Itamori Junction Abeokuta. Telephone number wọn ni 09026577587.
ìgbàlaṣọ ìgbàlẹ̀wù ìgbàkanrè tá bàbá ńlá wa falẹ̀ mọ́ iṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀ gan-an. àwọn àgbẹ̀ abisuyọ lóko bọ̀kùọ̀ tí wọ́n sì ń jèrè rẹpẹtẹ. ó ṣuyọ bí òṣùmàrè pẹ̀lú àǹfààní aláìlẹ́gbẹ́. ABR Agro Limited ìgbọ̀ tó fáwọn àgbẹ̀ lórí àwọn ilẹ̀ oko wọn. wọ́n ní ilẹ̀ ní òṣìẹ̀lẹ̀ àti alábàtà 40,000 naira per plot. bẹ́ẹ̀ sì ni orílẹ̀ ìlúgùn pẹ̀lú àpèsè ọbàjá ìdíẹ̀mẹ́ 30,000 naira per plot. èyíkéyìí ilẹ̀ àgbẹ̀tẹ̀ bára lọ́dọ̀ wọn. ẹ ó jèrè tó pọ̀ rẹpẹtẹ torí pé àwọn kan ti wà láti ra èrè oko yín àti láti bá yín tà á sí òkè òkun. bẹ́ẹ̀ sì làwọn tí yóò máa fi dáko tẹ́ ẹ̀ máa gbọ́ ọ̀pọ̀ owó lórí ẹ̀ náà wà níkàlẹ̀ pẹ̀lú àjọsọ àtò tèrèsì. ogúnjọ́ oṣù keje làǹfààní yóò mọ̀. pẹ̀lú ABR Agro Limited ìgbọ̀túndé.
Panorama.
Panorama. Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama.
Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM.
All right, welcome back to the program. It's Splash 106.7 FM. It's right now 24 minutes before 10 a.m. in the morning. I trust that you have been following us from 8 o'clock when we began with our issue of the day up until this moment, where we are currently in from the pages, we're taking you through the pages of major national dailies.
I quickly want to make a
clarification.
Okay, I want to make a clarification. I took an headline earlier. Army kills 20 Boko Haram ISWAP terrorists in Benue Forest. It's on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, but I'm sure you recall, if you were following at that time, that I did, go back and say Benue because it was surprising. But getting to the story, it looks like it was a typographical error because the actual story says Borno. So just to clarify there. But I would like us to touch on this story before we get to the phone lines. Expect new security strategies for your Makinde. And it says opposition politicians riding on perception of insecurity to gain prominence. But the major news is that he inaugurated the governing board of the State Security Network Agency, codenamed Amotekun. So much is happening in your state, even in Ibadan. Over the last 1 week, we've had a lot of robberies, daylight robbery even. There was a story of the NSCDC and many other, groups there. Do you think it's doing what is necessary?
Now, if I say what is Sheyi Makide's business in all this, people would call for my head. What is Sheyi Makide's business? It's not supposed to be his business. There are some people who are saddled with this responsibility. All this governor's intervention, buying cars for police, buying guns for police, buying this, setting up security, this within Oyo State, just like every other state. You will drive in front of one building where you have some sandbags and maybe some people carrying guns, usually cream-colored high fence and all that. That's the office of the DSS. It looks the same everywhere. Okay? And they have their operatives everywhere. You will find so many divisions of police. You are harassed on the road by so many gun-trotting people with one pickup, I lost pickup, parked somewhere and all of that. Those people are there for a purpose. Now, just recently, I mentioned on air that those people that were employed recently, these special constables, I've started seeing them on the street checking car papers. Is that what they were employed for? When people lose focus of what their primary jobs are, this is what you have. The governor, yes, is the chief security officer of the state. But please, is it every time you enter a store or you enter any of these supermarkets or stores that you see the manager? Is it every time you want to buy everything, you pick what you want to pick, you go to the cashier and go? It is when they cannot do their job, okay, or there is a problem to solve, there is, the customer complaint that cannot be resolved, that you call the manager. That is when it simply shows that you have gone beyond the level of those people, or you have, their capacity to manage that situation. And so when it comes to states, and governors have to start first to start setting up security committee and all of that, and then inviting those people who ordinarily should have been their jobs to do this. I think that we are giving our governors too much stress. Right. Honestly, I think we're giving them too much stress. If everybody were to do their jobs as they should, then it will not be the place of J. Makinde to start. Okay?
All right, let's take this call. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
This is Splash 106.7 FM. You're on to Panorama. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yes, my name is Aisha Tatide.
All right, make your contribution. Go ahead. All right, looks like that was an unintended call. I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. 0817-444-1067, 0817-555-1067, 0704-400-1067. Those are the numbers to call to get across to us and make your position known on the number of stories we've taken from the newspapers. We've taken you through the Punch, Nigerian Tribune, Premium Times, as well as Vanguard and the Nation newspaper. Hello, good morning.
Hello, my family in the house.
Hello, Paul.
Thank you so much. This is really Paul O'Neill calling from Abeokuta. I've been trying to get through since you started. I have a couple of things to talk about. Mainly, I'll start from the earlier discussions, which is on the issue of the stifling of the press, where you did wonderfully fine to counter that who was trying to tell us that we still need further regulation with all the other regulations we already have. Now, I really wonder what is truly the job regulation of the Minister of Information. I would have felt that the Minister of Information would be there to dissipate the good works of that administration. But here, they dissipate so much energy in stealing the information from this measure to everybody. Which means they have no good works to show. And it is really disheartening. If Nigeria has crude oil, we cannot refine. Nigeria has electricity that we cannot transmit. Nigeria has gas that we cannot distribute, that we are flying.